a very dense whiskey cake. So you'll need a stand mixer just because it makes everything a little bit easier. And this is not one of those things, you don't want this to be nice and light and fluffy. So you can be a little bit haphazard with how everything goes in. It doesn't get baked in a cake tin. It goes into a skillet or a fry pan and then goes into the oven. So a very, very simple cake for people who are a bit scared of baking. First thing I need to do is I'm going to cream, like with most cakes, I'm going to cream my eggs and my sugar. So I've got about 100 grams of butter there. And I've got a small skillet, so I'm going to use probably half of that. So maybe 75 grams of butter. Then my eggs, 2 eggs. Crack them in. So I'm going to cream my eggs and butter and my sugar. And then some sugar. I'll use about 3/4 of a cup. If you're making a big one, you'd use 1.5 cups. Now I'm going to bring all that together. Let's turn that off so you can hear me. That's going to take about 5 minutes, so it's nice and light and fluffy, and then we're going to add our next ingredients, which are going to be our polenta and our flour. Once we add those, we're going to start to form a bit of a batter. Now the batter is going to be quite thick. It's going to be almost more close to a scone batter than a cake batter. So we're going to wet it down with a little bit of milk, a little bit of whiskey, and then we've got some vanilla, cinnamon, and a little pinch of baking powder just to give it a slight raise when it's cooking. All right, that's been a few minutes, so we can turn that off. We've got everything mixed together. You've got a nice, light, fluffy sort of mixture. Polenta. About a cup of polenta, we'll go the full amount. About the same of flour, so equal parts polenta to flour. Plain flour. We actually don't want this to raise too much, we want it to be nice and dense, which is what most polenta cakes are. Bring that together gently. And now it is a bit of a sort of close to it's a thick cake mixture. So we want to add a little bit of milk to thin that up. Not much. About the same amount of milk to whiskey. It's a very smoky whiskey and we're not burning off any of the alcohol, so you don't need a lot of it. Vanilla. About a tablespoon of vanilla. A little bit of baking powder, not much, 1/2 teaspoon baking powder, and then some cinnamon, about a teaspoon of cinnamon. Bring that together again. And now you're checking to see whether you need to add any more flour, whether you need to add any more polenta. So we'll let that mix in. I do want a little bit of lemon juice. So probably the juice of 1/2 lemon. Speed that up a bit. Don't worry about overworking it. Remember, we're not trying to make this light and fluffy. Right, we'll see if it needs any more flour. It does need a touch more flour. Needs a good pinch of salt for sure. A little bit more flour. We didn't quite put the same amount of flour as polenta in before. It's going to be a bit better. I reckon I'm there. So, give that a try. Oh, it's a great cake. Just that whiskey is really strong. I'm happy with that. It's good. So I did have my griddle pan or my fry pan or my small pan on to begin with, and I've turned it off now, so it is warm. So just like you do with a hot cake, we're going to start cooking this in the pan. So that's nice and warm. I'm going to pour it in. Remembering this is not going to raise like a hot cake will. It'll raise a little bit, but then it's going to collapse. Ooh. That. Ooh, that is hot. All right, this can go into our oven, set at 185. You want to leave about 1 centimetre at the top. So that little bit of a rise and then a collapse. So we'll pop that in. That's going to take about 35 minutes in there to cook. Now, once that's done, I'm going to bring it out. I'm going to sprinkle it with a little bit of brown sugar on top while it's nice and hot, and then that'll sort of melt a little bit. And once that's done, once you've seen that, we're going to head off. Me and Dylan will go for a little trip around Hobart and catch up with Bill Lark and the Lark Distillery.